Okay, in this video, I'm gonna give you 5 tips that are gonna help you learn how to become a better writer. 5 tips to learn how to become a better writer, but before we get to that video, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel below, hit that notification bell because it's very important. I'm shooting new content all the time, so you don't wanna miss it. All right, let's get right into it. Tip number 1 that's gonna help you become a better writer is writing 10 headlines every single day. Top students in my programs, the ones who make the most money, the ones who have a bunch of views on Medium, 100% of them practice writing headlines. So it's important to practice headlines as part of learning how to become a better writer, because without the solid headline, people aren't going to click through and read your articles. And also, if you write a really good, solid headline, it can actually help frame the article itself better. So one thing I noticed on a couple of webinars that I did recently is a lot of people who attended didn't know that it was better to write the headline before you write the article. So they would kind of just tack the headline on as an afterthought, and that is one of the worst ways to practice your writing. You want to always write the headline first, right? Even in magazines, they start with the headline before they even get to the article. So practice writing 10 headlines every single day if you want to get better. The second thing you need to do to get better at writing is create a writing ritual, right? So I've talked about my writing ritual over and over and over again, and I've repeated it because not everyone who I have told this to has adopted it, right? So my writing routine is very simple. I start every day and I write down 10 headline ideas for articles. Next, I pick an article idea that I want to run with for the day. I create a mind map, which is essentially scribbling out notes with one large bubble in the middle, small bubbles for the sub ideas, smaller bubbles for the sub ideas. And then I take that and I trim it down into a formal outline, right, where I put headings and bullet points for the information where I want to include underneath each heading, and then I go through and write the draft, right? So I follow the crappy first draft rule, where I write all the way through till the end till I finish the draft no matter what. I don't get stuck trying to research while I write. I will use placeholders. I will come back and do that information later in the editing phase. I don't worry about typos. I just get the initial first draft done. Then I go back and there's 3 rounds of editing, including things like looking at the overall structure, checking spelling and grammar, going through and adding the necessary relevant links and anecdotes and quotes and statistics, and then I just hit publish. Right? So I don't spend a ton of time on every single article. From start to finish, it'll take me anywhere from 2 to 4 hours working on a piece. That's all you need. And if you're actually following a disciplined routine structure, this will occur. See, what most writers try to do is they write in this haphazard fashion. They write when they feel like it. They don't have a system and a ritual and a routine, and they just look at the blank page and try to come up with something. That's going to be a very difficult way to write. To where the way I teach it is that you want to have things like, it's almost like a coloring book where you have the whole drawing put together before you sit down to write, and the writing is like coloring between the lines. Tip number 3 to learn how to become a better writer: take time to consciously, actively focus on one specific aspect of your writing from time to time, right? So you always want to create the best article you possibly can, but you want to isolate one thing that you want to train for a while, right? So for example, you always want to write a good blog post, but maybe you want to focus on writing really, really good intros. So you study popular introductions, you look at opening sentences, you get a real good idea of what works, and then you say to yourself, okay, yes, my article is going to be good, but my intro is going to be killer. And you hammer that over and over and over again until you feel like you are a master at introductions. And then maybe you learn a new writing technique after that. Maybe you want to focus on using active voice instead of passive voice. So now you have your articles that are really good, that all have really good introductions, but now you're going to introduce technique number 2 that you're going to drill in. Technique number 1 is just running at the back of your mind. It's unconscious. You don't need to focus on it anymore. And then you take a new technique and you drill it in In the beginning, it's going to feel a little bit unnatural, but if you repeat it, it's again going to become part of your process, right? So I picked up tons of individual techniques like this over time. These are techniques I've taught in my program, etc., that now are just part of my muscle memory. You see how this all works? So generating ideas is part of my muscle memory, so to speak. Coming up with the whole article premise and writing is part of my muscle memory. And then all of these other individual writing techniques that I've developed over time are woven into there as well. So this is how you get better. Tip number 4, mimic other writers, right? You learn by mimicking other styles. There was a lot of different people's styles who I tried to emulate when I was first coming up. There were people like James Altucher. There were people like Ryan Holiday, Brianna Weiss, Heidi Priebe. These very popular writers, John Morrow, Jeff Goins, right? So there's all these super popular writers who I really looked up to, and I got good by imitating their style, literally, right? So you're not plagiarizing people, you're not copying their words, and ultimately your goal isn't to always write like them forever, right? So if you look at my writing now, you can see influences of all of these different people who I've looked up to and little things that I kind of swiped, right? So there's a book called Steal Like an Artist. It's a really good book. And it says, if you steal from one person, that's plagiarism. But if you steal from 200 people, that's original work, right? So have a wide variety of people and look at people's styles, people's cadences, right? One thing I have my students do who are trying to be successful on Medium, I have them go through and study the top writers. I have them take notes about the things that they find appealing. I have them take notes about the ways that they might want to differ in their style. So good students of writing are those who become observant and they're actively trying to reverse engineer, to where some writers, they practice, but they practice blindly. They don't have an eye for observation where they're trying to see what other people are doing and incorporate it. They just kind of write whatever. So you have to learn how to be observant and reverse engineer success if you want to be a writer as well. The last tip I'll give you, tip number 5, is having a deep understanding of the niche that you write for, but then also drawing from a wide variety of sources, right? So I made my name in the self-improvement space, but I didn't just read self-improvement books, right? I'd read these random, strange economics books, stuff from people like Nassim Taleb and Charlie Munger and Thomas Sowell, right? So these people weren't self-help authors, but I incorporated some of their ideas into my work, right? So there's this quote from this guy, I think his name was Murakami, and he said, if you read the same stuff that everyone else reads, you're going to think the same things that everyone else thinks, right? So diversifying your sources of information is also a way to learn how to get better at writing. 1, you could see different writing styles, and 2, the actual input, the information will help you create unique combinations of ideas. I read, these random obscure blogs like Slate Star Codex, The Last Psychiatrist, Chateau Heartiste, all these random Penelope Trunk, all these different random writers online and different influences, and that combination of influences plus doing the work, right? So it's the combination of consuming and creating, right? So it's not a binary. You want to be doing both at the same time. So I set out dedicated time to read every day, and I set out dedicated time to write every day. Even when I had a full-time job, both of those could be accomplished in a matter of an hour or 2 each day. All right, so those are the 5 tips to get better at writing. What I want you to do next, look in the description below. There's going to be a resource that's going to help you with tip number 1. It's called the Headline Vault. So the Headline Vault has 50 plus plug-and-play templates that you can use to write popular headline styles, and you can just plug in your own topics, and those are tested headlines that are known to get clicks and views. So go to the description below and download that right now. Also, check out the links in the description. I have links to other videos, all sorts of good stuff. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. Leave a comment for what you want me to make videos about next, and I will make them. Talk to you guys soon, and I'll see you on the next video.